In this video, I'm sharing 5 key lessons which I have learned from being a junior developer in a small company to being a senior developer in a $14 billion company. If you want to lead more projects, mentor others, and stand out from your peers, stay with me till the end because I have learned these lessons over the period of 13 years and this have completely changed the way I approach my daily job. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mohammed Danish and I have been a developer for past 13 years. I'm currently working at Intuit Canada and I'm here to share my experiences that I have learned over the period of 13 years. I have been gone from being a task taker to leading large-scale projects and aligning business goals with the current tasks, and I will show you how you can do the same in this video. First thing which we hardly understand is the taking ownership of projects. Especially if you're working in Pakistan and you want to move abroad, you have to make a little mindset shift. When I first started development, I was measuring myself in terms of how many tickets I'm completing, the task which I'm being given, are they done completely, efficiently, and just how many numbers of tickets I'm completing was my measure. But this is not how you get promoted or how you are measured in terms of appraisals. When it comes down to taking ownership of your projects, it basically comes down to who you are dealing with. So there are two types of companies. One is agency work and one is the product-based development. So agency work is where you get a client and you work for them for a particular period of time. It can be a few weeks, it can be a few months or even years, but eventually you switch clients. Whereas in the product-based company, you work on that particular project throughout your tenure in that company. When it comes to taking ownership of your project in a service-based industry, what you really need to think is how to satisfy your client more. Essentially, what you need to do is to ask more questions to your client so you exactly know why you are solving that particular problem on the project which you are working on. You can only take ownership if you know the meaning of the work you are doing. So if you are creating, for example, a ride-hailing app, what problem are you basically solving that needs to be conveyed to you, and it only happens when you ask questions to your client. In terms of company hierarchy, you might not be eligible to talk to clients directly, so what you need to do is to make sure you ask questions about why we are solving a particular problem to your project or product owners. Whereas when it comes to ownership in the product-based development, this is where you have to take charge in your hands. And you need to ask yourself questions why you are working on a particular ticket and how does this help the business. So in the service-based industry, your client is your business, whereas in the product-based industry, your end user is your business. And you really need to understand your end users. And you would usually see in product-based companies that there are user interviews. There are sessions where product managers get on a call with end users and they ask them questions which bring out the pain points the end users are going through. Once you know what your end users are going through and you know the pain points, that's when things change. That's where you will start coming up with the creative ideas. No matter you are a designer or a developer or a QA or a project manager, it really doesn't matter as far as you know what the pain points of your end user are. Once you know the pain points of your end user, that's when things start to change, and that's when you realize the creative potential you have to solve the user's problem. It's not just the task of product manager or the project manager to come up with the ideas and the solutions for the problems of the end user. Every team member is equally responsible to work for the end user. They are paying you and hence you are responsible to solve their problems. But in a product-based company, you take things in your hand. You ask questions to your stakeholders, to project managers, to your business owners that why are we solving a particular problem? And if you are part of those interviews which are done with the end users, you can really ask good questions whether your business goals align with the user problems, where you're actually driving growth to the business. And ownership is just not an isolated box in terms of product development. It also comes down to you when you are solving the solutions technically. Are you thinking in terms of the projects which were built before you or which will be built after you? Are you thinking in terms of scale? Will your particular solution cause any problems to the currently ongoing projects in parallel? On the same line, is your project manager aware of your plan? As an introvert, I was very reluctant to talk to the other stakeholders. I was thinking that if they have a question, they would just ask me. That does not happen. What you have to do is to be proactive. That is also taking ownership. When it comes to proactive communication, you have to really make sure that your stakeholders are aware of where you are in the project journey and what your plan is. If your project manager has to come to you again and again in terms of asking the progress, you are lacking your ownership. If your teammates don't know how are you planning the project and what components need to be built, you are lacking ownership. This is the lesson which I learned the hard way and have costed me much in terms of my promotion and appraisals. But this is where things change when you try to be proactive, when you try to show your presence, and when you try to show that you are actually leading and owning the project. So essentially, ownership is everything that is pertaining to the project, and you being proactive in terms of communicating your ideas, communicating your plan, making sure testing works, and your stakeholders are aware of what you are doing. The second thing which I learned the hard way is sharing your knowledge and sharing your work publicly so that people know what you're working on. This might sound counterintuitive, but you might be thinking that if I'm delivering my tickets on time, my project is on time, there is no delay from my side, I've been doing my work very efficiently, but still there is a problem that I'm not very visible. Essentially, the problem is if you think the world should observe you and your manager should notice you that you have been doing everything very nicely, there are no delays, and you should get a promotion. Unfortunately, the world doesn't work that way. You need to explicitly share your experience, and you do that by sharing your knowledge through presentations, by mentoring others, creating documentation, and things like that. One of the very common things that you will see become a hurdle in your progression is your visibility. As an introvert and having 13 years of experience, I can tell you with my experience that being visible in the company is as important as delivering good quality work. And by being visible, I just don't really mean that you have built connections and you have good friends. That's not what being visible mean. What being visible mean is that people can know what you're working on by you sharing your knowledge to them explicitly, not they coming to you and asking questions to you. And they will only come and ask questions to you when they will see you as an authority. And you will be seen as authority only when you share your work. And you can share your work in various different ways, by either mentoring people, having good technical discussions, creating presentations, creating documents, and things like that. Once you have these artifacts, share these in your groups and ask for feedback and engage in communications relating to your work. Apart from the social thing which you are doing to build network and friends, you actually have to communicate your work and bring about a discussion in that so that people can see you as an authority. Even if they don't see you as an authority, they might think that this particular person was asking about this problem or this technology. They might know and have come across the thing or the issue which I've been going through for a long time, and they might help me. So people will start seeing you as an authority and as someone who is knowledgeable in those particular technologies, and it will only happen if you will start sharing your work. If you really want to improve your skills of sharing your work, there are two books that I can recommend you. One is Show Your Work by Austin Kleon, where he describes how sharing your imperfect things out there in the world makes you authority. And the another one is this book, Working Out Loud, which I'm currently reading, and this is a good book in terms of how to start sharing and building connections. They basically say that a 12-week method to build new connections, a better career, and a more fulfilling life. So if I want to really summarize this sharing of work, it is basically as important as delivering good quality deliverables. Now the third thing when it comes to career progression is navigating feedback and actively seeking feedback and working on it to improve yourself. I've seen generally developers are egoistic, that I know how to code, I am a very good programmer, I am a very good engineer, I created scalable systems which have been deployed throughout the continents and they are just working flawlessly. Even though you are good, but you still need improvement in terms of soft skills, in terms of career progression, in terms of leading projects. It can be anything. And to grow, you need to mold yourself into someone where your manager can trust you so that they can handle you more responsibilities and they can see the output in a way they want to see it. Navigating feedback is hard, especially when someone feels that they are already a genius and they don't need improvement. The growth mindset comes where you are actively seeking feedback and working on yourself to improve and incorporate whatever you have received as a feedback from your manager or your peers. This is where most of developers lack. When they have one-on-ones with their manager, they get feedback and it just gets lost. One of the effective ways of getting feedback is to have your weekly sessions or bi-weekly sessions, not more than that. It's also a concept from a book called The Effective Manager. So your one-on-ones should not be only measuring your progress on your projects, but also as an employee, how have you been progressing in terms of your feedback. So when it comes to taking feedback, first thing, make sure you ask for it explicitly, and secondly, make sure you ask for the actionable items that you can do and you can measure. For example, if you are an introvert and you really want to improve your speaking skills, ask your manager in one-on-one what you can specifically do to improve these skills so that they are measurable and they are actionable. They might suggest that ask more questions in the upcoming project meeting, or deliver a presentation on this particular topic which the team is currently working on. Or they might say just have small conversations with other people and build your network. Whatever they say, just make sure that is measurable and actionable. If you don't have a measuring mechanism, or if you don't get the actionable insights, then it becomes very hard to improve on yourself. You really need to ask how to improve in terms of what actions you could take, because if it was in your control, you would actually have been doing that. Because you don't know how to do it, that's when you have to ask how to do it. And once you start taking those actions and showing progress on your feedback, you start navigating the feedback and you come out from the criticism zone to the growth mindset zone. And acting upon feedback is one of the greatest skills that you can develop to get more progression in your career. The next thing which comes in terms of career progression is basically switching from being a task taker to a strategic thinker. Most of the developers I've worked with are basically ready to take tasks but are very reluctant in terms of strategic thinking. And one of the feedback which I have gotten from my managers is ask questions in terms of business. As we discussed before, that you are not there only to solve a particular task or do as much tickets as you can, but what you really need to do is to make sure that you are thinking in terms of whatever you are doing will affect business. Will this bring in more revenue? Will this make customers more happy? Will this make their lives easier? Will it improve the business efficiency? Will it decrease our cost? Will it save our time? And things like that. So a very small example is if you are incorporating an NPM package into your front-end project and you're not thinking in terms of this will increase the build size, will this make customers happy, unhappy, will this make our site slower? And if you're not thinking those and just incorporating because that completes your ticket, that's when you are doing things wrong. So you need to start thinking strategically for whatever you are working on. And if you don't know what you are working on or why you are working on, that's when you need to ask questions to your project managers or the other stakeholders to get the answers. If you're not getting answers, then you have to make sure that you find a way to get them. There is no point of just doing your work without knowing why you are doing this or what problem is it actually solving and how it is impacting your business in which you are currently working in. A thought might come to your mind that these are just words which really doesn't make sense, but if you're not coming with these questions and your higher management is not seeing you coming up with these questions, they will not think that you have build the business acumen so that you can lead the teams in terms of business goals. So developing these skills and converting yourself from being a task taker to a strategic thinker is one of the greatest things that you can do to yourself. This will accelerate your career growth. One of the last things I'd like to share in terms of career progression is to enhance and expand your network beyond your team and to make sure that you are cross-collaborating across the teams. When it comes to visibility, it's just not about the visibility of yourself in your team, that your peers know that he's good or he's great, he's a great engineer, shares your work, but you have to make sure that you are visible across the teams as well. And this is important because your manager is not the only one who will give you promotion, but there is a committee, and that committee is based on different managers from different teams. And if different managers from different teams don't know you, they will be very reluctant in giving you that promotion, giving you that big project which will just kick off your career or just handling of you any responsibilities. As an introvert, I know that this is something very hard, but this is what needs to be done. This is how organizations work. This is how world works. Extroverts are really good at this because they know how to speak, they know how to share their work, they know how to build connections. As an introvert, we really have to do this and make connections out of the team so that the other people know who we are and what we are working on and make ourselves someone known in a particular domain. And you essentially do this by doing everything which we have talked up till now, which is basically sharing your work, making sure you get the feedback, and you ask how to collaborate with the cross-functional teams, making sure you ask questions which are not exactly related to your domain and might be related to other domain, and being comfortable in asking questions which are business related. So you might have to go to the other departments and talk to them to get answers. You might have to write documentations for other projects which they are working on. You might want to share your documentations for the projects which others are working on. They might get some help. You might just want to share presentations which you think your solutions could help others. And that's how you build connections with the people outside of your team. If you are still not sure or you don't have these artifacts of sharing documentation or presentations, one of the ways to achieve this is to get second opinion from others outside of your team. So if you're working in a company, there must be architects, senior engineers, or others on your level who are working in different teams, but there are high chances that they are working on the same technology, and you can get your feedback of how to solve a particular problem that you are facing. in that technology. So basically anything which makes a connection between you and peers outside of your team. If you're one of those who's looking to build confidence as a software engineer, here's the video which can help you do that. And here's the video which will help you avoid mistakes when applying jobs abroad. And I'll see you in the next one.